Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to EGC Golden League, and look who we have on my left. It is Aussie Drongo with the E suspiciously missing from the end of Aussie, but it's good to have you here otherwise.
Hello, I'm Aussie Drongo. I'm from Austria. Not really, I am Aussie Drongo. Why? Where's my E? Where's my E? And do all Austrian people speak that way? Wow. Wow. It is, it's great to be back here on EGC TV. It's been a while. It's been like almost more than a week now. Feels a bit strange, honestly, but it's good to be back. I'm looking forward to the games that we got tonight. Obviously, MarineLorD, LucifroN. It's going to be big, Liadkor. I'm looking forward to it. Best of 5 losers bracket. Now, I know that people probably coming into this, they're like, "Well, Drongo, this ain't super important." And look, you might be right. People are basically settled in their spots at the moment when it comes to their seeding, when it comes to their positions. But obviously, not only is ego still on the line, but there is also still cash money on the line. So, Liadkor, who's your money on tonight? Who's going to go away with the big victory?
Ooh, this is a tough one. First of all, we are going to take a look at MarineLorD versus LucifroN, and you might say, oh yeah, MarineLorD is gonna take it. But hold on, just look at the left side of that bracket. LucifroN was the one who knocked down MarineLorD to the losers bracket, so this might not be as easy for MarineLorD as one would think. And this was actually a massive win for LucifroN because that was essentially the win that guaranteed him a spot in the top 8. So, huge win over there for him. Knocked down MarineLorD to the losers bracket. And now it's going to be a rematch. And Beastie is just waiting in the finals, seeing who he's going to get. I would think that my money is on Beastie today because I feel like he has had a pretty good run in this one so far. So he took down Viper, he has taken down Wham, and Wham also had some really good sets against other players, like for example Vortex. So Beastie has knocked out quite a lot of big names over here so far. So my money is on Beastie. Who do you have one for this?
You ruined it, man. I was going to go for Beastie as well. We can't both go for Beastie. Can we both go for Beastie, Liadkor? I feel like we both can, but then... Yeah, look, I think Beastie is in form. Obviously, you know, coming off his victory in N4C, that was quite some time ago. He sort of dipped down for a little bit there. We saw, you know, he was knocked out. I wouldn't say necessarily early, but he didn't, you know, yeah, hasn't been going through and getting those big victories. But I'm confident, like, watching the games that he played yesterday, he looked incredibly strong, even when playing some of those lower tier civilizations like the Holy Roman Empire. Wasn't that an absolute treat? Will we see more HRE today? I know there's a lot of HRE fans in the chat, and look, it pains me to do it, but I feel like I've got to get on the Beastie Cutie hype train as well. It's
Ooh.
exciting to see. It is exciting to see, but yes, my money going there as well. So yeah, bet's going to be stacked today, all on Beastie Cutie's side. But yeah, I mean, as we're seeing on the screen at the moment, MarineLorD was victorious in the first round, coming up second in the second round. He'll be going through in the third round, and he'll be going through with, irrespective of his result today, I think he'll be coming through in the first seed or the first place. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. MarineLorD, you see, he's at 240 points right now, even if he loses in this round. Beastie is sitting at 200. And even if he wins the grand finals, he would go up to 100 points from 80. So he would get 20 more points, which means that it would be a 20 or 220 points finish for him. Beastie has no chance to mathematically take over MarineLorD. MarineLorD has guaranteed himself the number 1 seed in the group stage of the playoffs.
Yeah, he'll be very happy with that. Obviously, as mentioned before, there is still both ego points and money on the line tonight. So the winner tonight is going to be taking home a nice little cash prize, as well as the runner-up. So these guys definitely still want to be trying as hard as they can, because it's the equivalent of a pretty reasonable sized tournament just going out tonight with regard to prize pool. Now, in addition to prize pool, there's also going to be Gamba throughout the night. I know there's a lot of fans of Gamba. So if you haven't already, put your money where your mouth is. Who is victorious in game number 1? Is it MarineLorD? Is it LucifroN? What's the matchup that we've got in round number 1? Let's talk a little bit about the draft as well, because we've seen MarineLorD get out-drafted by LucifroN before. Will we see him get out-drafted again tonight? That is going to be a big question.
Ooh. I get the feel that after that draft issue, and just for those of the people that don't know what you're talking about, after LucifroN took down MarineLorD in the winner's bracket, MarineLorD tweeted that he thinks he was out-drafted by LucifroN, but ever since then, I think MarineLorD's drafts have improved quite a bit. So I don't think I've seen a single draft where MarineLorD had a pretty bad or underwhelming lineup of civilizations. And you see, French falls into his hands once again. This is something that has happened over and over again, and we know that MarineLorD loves his French, and it's no-brainer for him to pick the French in Arabia. The question is, what is LucifroN going to do against that with the Mongols? Correct me if I'm wrong, but yesterday we did see MarineLorD face the Mongols, so I'll have to double check on that one. And that was, hang on,
was it Mongols or was it Delhi?
No, it was Mongols by Wham, and Wham had a really good start in that game. There was a tower rush coming, and MarineLorD was cut off from the gold for so long. Ultimately, he ended up winning the game and winning the set as well against Wham. But Wham had a pretty decent start with a tower rush against the French, and I wonder if LucifroN will try to imitate something very similar. Because obviously, the tower rush is something that you always expect from the Mongols, especially against the French. But it was relatively successful for Wham, and that could motivate LucifroN to try something very similar.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I guess with regard to these drafts, do you have a particular favorite for the way that this has gone? Because looking at this from my perspective, one of the things that really stands out to me is the fact that English is down so low. We're seeing it picked up as the 6th civilization here. It comes in on the 4th round. Now, remember, a lot of players were putting English in their S tier. Now, that was obviously coming off the most recent or the most recent round in EGC TV's Golden League, which was the off-meta picks, where we saw the English just completely dominate. But I guess, does it surprise you to see them that low down there at pick number 6?
I would think yes. The more interesting thing is that you have, Chinese in front of it, because, Delhi, French, Rus, Mongols, it's not impossible to imagine that someone prefers those civs over the English. The thing that stands out for me more, as we are jumping into game number 1 very soon, so we'll have to conclude this line of thought very soon, but is the Abbasid pick in front of the HRE pick? Because I think for the majority of the drafts in the previous rounds, we have seen the Abbasids being the last pick consistently, and it looks like MarineLorD prefers that over the HRE.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, well, we'll be jumping in any second, I understand, Liadkor, so...
Indeed. So in we go. Game number 1 for a chance to play in the grand finals in the 3rd round.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, NBs, everybody in between, welcome to game number 1 of this best of 5. Spawning in on the west side of the map, in the color blue, representing Izzy, it is going to be MarineLorD. And on the opposite side of the map, Who do we have, Liadkor? Tell me. I want to know.
Yeah, I was impatient with this one, but there it is. LucifroN is going to be using the Mongols on the right side, dropping that TC nice and easy close to that stone mine. Get it? Easy.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's a good little spawn for him. And the fact that he's got it right in there, nice and tucked in. But let's talk a little bit about what we can expect to see in this game. Obviously, big civilizations coming out first. This is a best of 5 now. It is exclusive civilization or exclusive conclusion that we've got here, which means that you are able to only pick from the 4 civs that you've got. But obviously, with 5 potential matches, what happens when we reach that 5th and final match? How does it work? Explain for the folks at home, Liadkor, exactly what happens.
Yeah, that's a great question, Aussie. So, indeed, as you said, we have 4 civilizations for each player, but potentially 5 games in a best of 5, or even 7 in a best of 7 in the grand finals. So the way it's going to work is that you can repick a civilization that you used after 2 games that you haven't used it in. So, for example, for MarineLorD, picking French in game number 1 means that he cannot use it in game number 2 or game number 3, but he can reuse it starting game number 4. That is actually a big talking point here, because keep in mind that MarineLorD is one of the best French players out there, so this is by far his favorite and probably best civilization. So for him, using it in game number 1 means that he's guaranteed to be able to use this civilization at least once more, well, in a best of 5 only once more, regardless of whether he wins here or loses. But if we have more than 3 games, we're going to see MarineLorD potentially using French again.
Right, okay, makes a lot of sense. So it makes sense to sort of get that civilization out as quickly as possible if that's your best civ. And by the same token, LucifroN, he's going to have access to those Mongols a little bit sooner than the other civilizations once it starts getting a bit longer in the series. But we've already seen him be relentless in this opening. MarineLorD did a great job picking up a lot of sheep, but keep in mind, he lost a lot of them to that Khan. That Khan took out, I counted 4 sheep that were killed. So when I see that many sheep that are being killed, I start to lean a little bit more towards professional scouts, because obviously when it comes to professional scouts, it's a huge investment, but every single sheep that you lose, not only are you going to be losing food, but also it's a carcass that you're able to go out and retrieve on the map, bring back to your town center and restore that food as well. So it sort of almost incentivizes him a little bit more to go into professional scouts.
Yeah, that's a great point, and indeed, the French also have a very well streamlined professional scouts build. They do have the School of Cavalry to make the scouts with, and they do have the discount on the upgrade itself. So you can justify investing into professional scouts a lot more than for some other civilizations, because the investment is not as big as it would be for other civs.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And now we see a bit of damage beginning to come down on these villagers on the gold mine, but not too much harassment. You can see LucifroN's already made his way up to 180 gold, still going to be trying his best to gather up the gold. Not too long, and he'll be at that 200 gold threshold, but I'd love to take a look at his base and see exactly what is going on. We can see that there's a bit of a pasture up there towards the north.
Yep.
What else has he got going on in there?
Yeah,
Looks like it's just going to be a pasture.
Yeah, it's only a pasture, and MarineLorD knows very well that there is no tower rush or any kind of Dark Age aggression coming in. Are you surprised we're not seeing any kind of aggression here from LucifroN, especially against the French? If you wanted to, you could harass that gold mine quite a bit with some spearmen. Are you surprised that we're not seeing that from LucifroN?
Yeah, to an extent I am. It's a little bit... Yeah, it's a bit surprising to not see that aggression come out, because obviously players have been very aggressive against the French, and already we see an interesting sign of things to come. MarineLorD heading out to the stone, so it is going to be a 2 town center play coming out here for MarineLorD. So I love this play a lot. I think it's very smart. One of the things that was often talked about in this matchup is if you go even up against the Mongols and both of you guys get to age 3, that it's very difficult to actually overcome the Mongols and the power spike that they get once they get in age 3, and they've got all their upgrades online, they've got their Uvu pumping, they've got the Springwood emplacements going. It's very difficult to beat that. So what does MarineLorD do? He says, well, yeah, we'll be going into the Castle Age together, but that's not going to be necessarily on an even ground. That second town center is going to empower him to really push that economy to the next level.
Yeah, that's indeed the case, especially knowing that his opponent is not putting up that much aggression. He sees the 2 pastures, which is a very economy-focused approach from LucifroN, and he says, okay, you're focusing on your economy, I can do that as well, because I know that you won't be putting up that much pressure on me. And as you said, you don't want to get to Castle Age on an even terms with the Mongols, because there's the Step Redoubt, there's the Prayer Tent that can move around to pick up relics a little easier. Then you have the double training as well, of course. The pastures also make your food eco very well streamlined, whereas the French will have to transition to farms at some point. So you really want to carve out a lead going into Castle Age here, at least in terms of villager numbers.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the big thing for me is how long does he look to actually stay in the feudal age? Because I would expect reasonably that LucifroN's going to be looking to go up to castle pretty quickly. When it comes to MarineLorD, though, one of the things that we have seen a lot of French players do is stay around in age 2 for quite some time. They're very happy just getting up that knight number, all of a sudden, bringing out a few archers, and then, once the age 3 starts to kick in for the enemy, dropping down a couple barracks, and then getting spears out, and then just heading into that tri-unit composition. So that could be something that we see. By the same token, we could just see, a double town center, naked fast castle come out today as well. But I'd be very cautious of that, obviously, because going up against the Mongols, they are the type of civilization that will pounce very quickly upon any lack of defense.
Yeah, that is indeed the case. Now, LucifroN has spotted that second town center, so he's aware. And given the fact that MarineLorD isn't mining any gold, or at least he wasn't mining for a long time, you see he's still at 0 gold per minute, I would think he's not going to prioritize Feudal Age army that much. Although he definitely could justify doing that, because you see that gold mine is not super well protected. There's a tower with arrow slits on it, but just one knight dancing around, it is enough to idle so many villagers. And as you said, it's all about not getting to Castle Age on even terms. If you can delay the Mongol player from getting up, that is going to have an impact on the overall resources gathered as well, because obviously the more you delay it, the more he's going to be delayed getting that Step Redoubt up and getting that bonus from it.
Yeah, so I think that for LucifroN, what I would suspect to see from him is that it's going to be that Castle Age into the Prayer Tent, and then, looking to establish himself out on the map, and then adding the second town center in at around 12-13 minutes. he's starting to stack up a bit of wood. I'd love to take a look at his base and see exactly what we've got going on in there for LucifroN right now, because I do suspect he's probably dropped down a couple more pastures. Indeed, we do see a second pasture being dropped down, also going to be dropping down a very early blacksmith. So not sure exactly what the intent is behind this. Maybe looking to get an early +1 ranged armor so that he can get that early +2 ranged armor super quick after he ages up. That could be one of the options, but we'll take a look back towards MarineLorD's base. And you can see he is going to be intent on gathering up gold. Look at how many villages he's got there. So this could be just pretty much a straight to Castle Age, and only a handful of villages on wood as well. So this could very much be just, you know, a couple of nights into double town center fast castle that we do see here.
Potentially. He knows very well that his opponent is going for a fast castle, and LucifroN probably has a head start in doing that because he's only using one town center to consume food. And you see, LucifroN is going to be a little faster to Castle Age, in fact, considerably faster here, looking at those resources. There's the blacksmith indeed, and it's going to be double stables, probably for range defense upgrade then, because I assume that the idea here for LucifroN is that he's going to try to compensate for that villager deficit by diving under town centers with lancers, picking off some villagers. That could work. I mean, the villager discrepancy is only 10, and I'm not sure if MarineLorD actually saw that step readout coming up. I don't think that he did, so he might not know that his opponent is already on the way to Castle Age, whereas he himself is actually pretty far.
Yeah, this is actually something that scares me quite a bit. Now, we can see that there are units in production at the moment for MarineLorD. He's also getting +1 ranged armor. So he's not 100% committing to Castle Age. And I think that's a smart thing to do. I think it would be very dangerous for him right now to go straight to Castle Age. I think it would almost guaranteed end up with him losing if you did that, just because you get overwhelmed so quickly with regard to just the knight numbers or the lancer numbers. Have a look at how much stone LucifroN's got in the bank right now. He hasn't spent a single cent of it. He's got almost 800 stone ready to go straight into lancer production, and obviously 240 a pop is going to be able to get him on those double ups. And now we begin to see that lancer production coming through. He's going to be doubling up over there. You can see 2 sets of 2 knights coming out, or 2 lancers, so he's going to have 4 ready to go straight away. And this is going to be difficult to deal with for MarineLorD, because obviously he's got plenty of villages, but doesn't have a lot of military to repel those annoying and perpetual attacks that are going to be happening from LucifroN.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And as you pointed out, not a single bit of stone was consumed by LucifroN. That's what you're getting by not going for Dark Age aggression. You're not consuming your stone to make spearmen. You're only using that for very valuable units. On the bright side of things for MarineLorD, he knows that the Lancers are coming, and he's got French Knights, and we've talked about this one multiple times, that the French Knights are better than just a standard Feudal Age unit. In fact, it's more like a Feudal +1 type unit, where it's not gonna be as good as the Lancers coming out from LucifroN, but it's also not as bad as one would think, so MarineLorD, with sufficient numbers, he can hold off these initial Lancers.
Yeah, the tough part is going to be the fact that there are a lot more in queue. These initial ones, they should be okay to be held off by the amount of knights that are coming out. We can see he's actually got 7 knights out on the field, which is a great number to have up against these 3 lancers. Obviously, keep in mind there is a little bit of difference between these two. We've got Feudal Age knights going up against Castle Age knights. But there are a lot of villagers out here ready to be, well, let's just say, sent to a better place. LucifroN is the kind of guy happy to do it. And now we see MarineLorD starting to struggle, running out of food underneath this town center, a lot of idle villagers. He's also going to be idle on the gold now, and this is the problem. Sure, those knights are going to be able to repel the lancers, but the villagers are going to have to run. They are going to have to be idle, and that's really where it starts to hurt. And all of a sudden, as soon as that knight number is lower than the lancer number, then that is where it gets very difficult. Now we see MarineLorD actually stacking up quite a fair bit of gold right now, but also a couple of these lancers are going to be looking to try and take down the knights. We're going to see the armor arrow go off. Looks like a pretty big pop, and it looks like the tables are beginning to turn here. MarineLorD might be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, he's in trouble here because, as you pointed out, those hunters started to run out of food, and now MarineLorD is forced to start continuously producing knights, and we talked about this, that those Castle Age knights are still more powerful, so on even numbers, LucifroN would win a fight, and you see MarineLorD has to expand towards those berry patches. He doesn't have the food to get up to Castle Age and produce knights at the same time, and now LucifroN has the resources to just spam out knights left and right, and potentially overrun his opponent's base. MarineLorD has a pretty substantial eco lead, but as long as he's still in Feudal Age, it is a concern. And if you look at it, he's not going up to Castle Age, and he has 54 food in the bank. He's going to stay in Feudal for so long.
Yeah, one of the other things to note is he's got no spears and no concept of spear production either. There's more lancers now looking to engage upon those knights. A big bit of damage coming through on those. He's going to be able to take out the scout. Another one pops out. He's doing pretty well. LucifroN is at the moment managing to keep his head above water. Keep in mind, behind this has got the Imam collecting up those relics, or rather the Shaman collecting up the relics, but one of those Lancers going to go down. Keep in mind, the Mongol Lancers don't self-heal. They don't have that nice little self-heal that the French do get. So it's going to mean that the longer these fights go on, or the smaller these skirmishes are, that the better it's going to pay off for the French player.
That is indeed the case, and in the long run, MarineLorD is building up an eco, so once he makes that transition to the farming eco, suddenly his food eco is going to skyrocket and he will be able to match those numbers. You see, in fact, he has better knight numbers over here, and he intercepted the villager that was trying to make the tower for the Yam network. LucifroN will need to pick those relics up pretty soon, also try to secure some sacred sites because he needs to compensate for that now quite substantial villager lead that MarineLorD has.
Yeah, he's got a great villager lead, but keep in mind a lot of these guys are technically idle, not really doing much because there is a farm transition that is ongoing at the moment. If we click on one of his villages, it'll tell us exactly how many farms he's got out at the moment. And I'd be curious to see. I reckon it's probably going to be heading towards that, that 20. Oh my lord, that's a lot of farms coming out right now for MarineLorD. You can see he's got 12 down here and up towards this part, 8. So that is going to be 20 farms already invested in for MarineLorD. So while he's got those villager lead, definitely they're going to be spending a lot of those resources on the farms. But now another fight, another skirmish in the middle of the map, trying to avoid this tower being killed. He's going to try his best to hold on here, Liadkor, but you can see at the same time it's just pumping out damage non-stop into these units. Just the Springwood emplacement doing so much work.
Beautiful micro by both sides over here. You see LucifroN try to delay those knights from killing the tower, just maximizing the damage output he's getting from that Springwood emplacement. And MarineLorD was dancing back and forth as well. He wanted to make sure that if LucifroN is able to get a successful charge in, he can also get that one for himself. Quite a lot of pastures already up for LucifroN. He also has the step redoubt to boost his eco plus free relics. So sure thing, nominally, you have an 80 villager to 49 situation, but LucifroN is not that much behind an eco, and he could consider working towards second town center, so he's going to catch up in terms of villager count, because actually he already has a second one. That's great.
He already has. He already has.
That's great.
He is. Yeah, he's doing very well. Honestly, I'm loving his position the more and more he plays this out. And keep in mind, the later this game goes, the more favored it becomes for the Mongols. That's going to be it. Yep. As long as both players enter into the late game on an even footing, then it's just going to become more and more favored towards the Mongols. And it's going to be more difficult for MarineLorD to really try and take this game off his opponent.
Now MarineLorD is working towards Castle Age over here, so he's going to get the veteran upgrade at some point for those knights, but we could see for a brief moment that LucifroN started adding the crossbows, or at least the archer ranges themselves, for future crossbow production, and this is something that you pointed out before for MarineLorD. He doesn't have a direct answer to the opponent's lancers other than his own, whereas for LucifroN, he's already in the process of a tech switch or a transition to a different unit that's going to be suitable to counter MarineLorD's forces.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So those crossbows are going to be coming out. One of the saving grace for MarineLorD, though, is obviously his crossbows are Arbalètrier, and they are some of the best damn crossbows you will ever come across. I was looking at them. You know, obviously the crossbows, or the Arbalètrier have got a lot of bonuses. As an example, they've got the Pavis shield that they can put down. They get the Gambeson's upgrade. They also get I think it's called the crossbow stirrups in Age 4 as well. So a lot of unique upgrades. But did you know this? They also get an additional base 1 armor on top of their upgrades. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they do. So that is essentially coming from the fact that they are a unique type of crossbowmen. So the same way that they are slightly different from the generic crossbowmen, it's essentially the same idea as you would have, let's say, comparing a palace guard to a man-at-arms. It's the same class of unit, but it is slightly different from some perspectives. The difference is actually minimal, at least on the base stats between a crossbow and an Arbalètrier, but as you pointed out, it's the upgrades that make them so much better.
Knights now, got to be careful. You can see him dancing away from those lancers. Isn't it interesting to watch the fact that there are so many knights and yet they're running away from the lancers? He obviously knows that there are crossbows in the rear with the gear. And speaking of in the rear with the gear, we see that archer or that arrow being popped off, going to be providing a little bit more armor, but the knight numbers are looking pretty strong for MarineLorD. He's got to be careful here, LucifroN, as he is getting completely eaten alive. He's got a couple of crossbows back here, but it doesn't look like they're too long for this world, as the knights do a great job of just cleaning this up. He's going to continue retreating back. Khan going to be falling back, but those numbers looking very healthy for MarineLorD. He's managed to make it up to the castle edge. He's managed to get those upgrades, and now it definitely seems like he is putting the pressure on his opponent.
The timing on that push was just perfect by MarineLorD. He retreated and waited until Kanto settled finished. And the moment he got that upgrade, he turned back and started fighting. And he was aware that there are crossbows out there, but he's aware of the capabilities of his army. And look at that, LucifroN is just tapping out immediately. He knows he can't stop those Lancers and he has no tools to cut into that villager deficit. One big decisive battle by MarineLorD, and it's all about the timing.
Yeah, I can't believe that. That was absolutely wild. I felt like LucifroN was in a great position, and it just came down to that one fight right there. Unfortunately for him, it didn't go his way. He got caught off guard by the number of knights that came out for MarineLorD. We could even see at the end of the game, look at the villager count difference between these two guys. So MarineLorD doing a great job there at setting the difference. And it really goes to show that, you know, even though LucifroN did look to put on the damage, he didn't do much damage to his opponent. Look at the villager difference there. There's not a single big dent that came through. You know, one of the things that we have seen between players in this matchup is that Mongols will love to get in and do damage with those early lances, early in that castle age, but unfortunately didn't come through for LucifroN here.
And we are just seeing why the French are such a dangerous civilization. Just look at this. This game was, what, 15, 20 minutes at maximum? And we're looking at 102 villagers for MarineLorD. I mean, many civilizations don't even get 102 villagers by the time they get to Imperial. And it's difficult to punish, as you pointed out, because those first couple of Lancers, they would have to fight in the range of town centers, and they do have to fight those knights that do have a pretty decent combat capability, even in Feudal Age, and they can also heal back up. So the moment LucifroN disengages, MarineLorD can heal his knights back up, and that's not something that the Mongol attacker can do. And it's just all about the fact that you can't punish that eco. Big win here for MarineLorD, pushes him to match point.